brings the vision, the strategy, the plan. JJ's resilience forged in the sand. Together they rise to sharpen the mind, teaching the hustle, the leader's grind. Leadership Live, where the truth unfolds, strengthen the stories, the wisdom they hold. From the grind to the grit, where leaders survive. It's Chris and JJ on Leadership Live.
Welcome to Leadership Live with Chris and JJ, the show where we break down actionable leadership principles you can apply in real time. I'm JJ Hardy, Army veteran and leadership and resilience coach. And I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Pienkowski, a former leadership coach who now leads at the corporate level. Together, we bring different perspectives to the same mission, helping you lead better under pressure, communicate with purpose, and grow where it matters. Let's get into it.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Leadership Live. It's been a little while since we've done this, so we're excited to come to you today. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about leading with authenticity. So this episode is called Leading Without Pretending. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm great, JJ. How are you?
Oh, man. You know, summer's almost over. The kids are going to be back in school, so the grind will become more of a grind again.
Yes.
What about you?
Yes. Same here. You and I have had kind of our season break. We had a little hiatus over the past month on the show, but it's been a lot of family time, getting away with the family, down to the beach, up to the mountains, and just making the most of it before school starts again. And then, like you said, the grind gets right back to it.
It does. It definitely doesn't stop or slow down. It's always there waiting for us.
Yes.
Yeah. So today, leading without pretending. And, this is an important topic because how many times, especially new leaders, right? And every time you get that new position and you have a new team, you have that, I'll call it an oh shit factor, right? Where you have to present yourself to these people, and you want to make that good first impression, and that first impression can be lasting, and you can try to keep that same image. And sometimes that image, people put something out there that's not their true authentic self, and that's not really necessary. How you start is how you should finish, and people will be able to sniff that stuff out if you're not authentic. So I think this topic is going to be a really good one. What do you think about that, Chris?
Yeah, I agree. As we grow throughout our careers, we witness leadership, right? We see what we think is good, what we think isn't so good about leadership, and that kind of forms our opinions, and it absolutely influences the way that we act and perform our own leadership tasks. So it is really important that you maintain your own voice, right? You build your voice as a leader. You're absolutely going to take, hey, I really like what these leaders did, and I'm going to incorporate that. I've seen this stuff that's not really good from a leadership standpoint, and I'm going to learn and make sure that I'm not incorporating that. But at the end of the day, it's got to be you, right? It's got to be your version of leadership and how it's done, how you talk about it. Because people can, if you're faking it, like, the old saying, right? You fake it till you make it.
Mm-hmm.
That can apply in certain circumstances, but I don't think it applies to leadership. You can't fake leadership. You have to be yourself. Like, if you're trying to fake it and be someone else because you really like the way that Bob led, people know that you're not Bob. You can only wear that mask for so long. And then the real you is going to come out at some point, and there's going to be some contradictions. Therefore, you're not going to be consistent. Now people are going to start questioning, like, what's really going on here? So, using influence, but in your own voice, is so important. And people get to know you. They get to know the real you. And that's what continues to build your own leadership capital, your leadership voice, and your ability to grow as an individual.
Sure. And I like what you said. There are situations where you kind of have to fake it, but those are, and I want to be very clear because not the, people might take that out of context. Um, you can fake it to make it with things like confidence, right? You don't necessarily need to know everything. You just have to be confident in your ability to say, I don't know the answer to that, but I'll get back to you. Or, well, let's go figure it out together. When you kind of hem haw around a little bit, it kind of loses some of that trust. But we're talking about, the big things, like when you tell people something, you mean it. Uh, when you go out and say that you're going to assist somebody with their job, or you tell people and that initial brief that you're going to be there for them for whatever they need, or communication is important, or I have an open door policy. I hear that one so very often, and that's not always true.
Yeah,
Those are the types of things. If you say it, you better mean it.
that's right.
And if you mean it, you have to follow it. So, I mean, if you tell somebody you have an open door policy, but then you're always too busy to talk to them, well, you don't have an open door policy.
Right.
So
Exactly.
those are the things that you need to be very, 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 very yourself with. Don't go out there and put this false image just because you like that somebody else said it.
Right. Yeah. Especially now. I mean, it was different when you and I were first kind of coming up in our roles of leadership. You didn't have the internet. You didn't have all these people. Like, you can't throw a rock without hitting someone who claims to be like a leadership guru or whatever. So differentiating between all the noise out there that you're hearing and do this, do that. Some people might say that about us. Who knows? But
Probably.
but no, the bottom line is you've got to be yourself. And when you try to force yourself to be who you're not, that's when you're going to be found out. And you're going to be found out because of your actions, right? Actions speak louder than words. So you might be saying one thing. Let's take the open door policy for a second.
Yeah.
You might be going around touting that I've got an open door policy. I'm approachable. You can come talk to me anytime. But then when your people can't actually find you, that's the real you, right? That's not the fake you that is putting on a persona and how you want to be perceived by people. The real you is hiding behind your door, and you're not letting your people come in and talk to you. So it'll be found out sooner rather than later.
Sure. And I like what you said about all of these influencers out there. There's a lot of noise. And I mean, I'm going to pull this out and say we spend a lot of time flipping through this device we call a phone, which this is not what a phone was like when I was a kid. I mean, my goodness, we could barely call and play Snake on there. I mean, these days it's a full computer in your hand, which was a computer was even new when we were teenagers. But when it comes to all the noise, I mean, some things are similar. I mean, listen to that noise, but you don't have to adopt everything.
Right.
So how that relates to when you and I were growing up, we had different experiences. And so you can use these influencers as different experiences. You can always learn what's good, bad, right, or wrong. I mean, if it pumps you up and you like what you hear and you think it might work, don't adopt it and then be fake about it. Just you can try different things, but you can choose what to adopt into your leadership style and then turn it into a practice if it works. If it doesn't work, and you go and talk to your people and they're like, well, JJ, you're being weird all of a sudden. Well, I really like what somebody had to say. And, I know we've been having a certain problem around here, and be not authentic. The word I'm thinking of is
Transparent
vulnerable. Well, yeah.
or vulnerable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
I said transparent.
Transparent, vulnerable, transparent. You be see-through about it. That's really what it is. When you're trying new things and you're trying to be your best self, and people start noticing that you're getting a little bit weird, don't be afraid to say, hey, look, I'm not perfect. I'm always trying to get better around here, just like I expect better things from you guys all the time. Let's I'm maybe it'll work, maybe it doesn't, but I just listened to an episode of Jocko podcast, and I really liked what he said about authenticity, and I wanted to come in here and try something new.
Mhm.
And if it doesn't work, people will be like, well, JJ's listening to the next new thing again. He's just being weird, and JJ's always being weird because JJ is JJ. And if they know that you're constantly trying to improve, though, and you're making mistakes, they're going to expect that. But what's cool about being open and being vulnerable is that if you are honest about it, when people start approaching you, you're giving them permission to also be vulnerable and be honest with you. So, that when you are open about, trying new things and just being who you are, and people see that you're making mistakes and you're open to admitting those mistakes, it creates trust. It gives them permission to do all the same things. And so don't think you have to be this rock at the top that doesn't show any emotion, doesn't show anybody your weaknesses at all. You're just the most perfect thing, and you're putting up this facade, and you couldn't possibly ever make a mistake, because then people aren't ever going to want to talk to you. They're not going to be open with you at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when we talk about authenticity, not only is it about being your true self, right? And it is about some of those other factors, right? Being transparent, being vulnerable, being willing to just be open and honest. Now, there's a little bit of a dichotomy there because some people's true selves are not open and trust. I would say trustworthy, but you know what? Some people aren't trustworthy too. But um, if you're not a trustworthy leader, that's a whole different topic. Like
Yeah.
we're going to open a whole can of worms on that. But transparent, you've got people who just by their nature feel like they have to play everything close to the chest. But if that's you, then hey, that's you.
Mhm.
I personally don't think that that's the best way to lead people, and I think you can get better results by being transparent. Obviously, there are going to be things that you have to keep close to your vest, right? That isn't for public consumption of your team or your broader organization. And that's also part of leadership, is knowing when to keep your freaking mouth closed and not overshare and not be overly transparent.
Yeah.
But to the authenticity piece, um, there are people who them as an individual are just assholes. And you're never going to get around that. Like those people exist. And unfortunately, those people are in leadership roles. And sometimes you work for one of them, and hopefully you're not one of them. But people also can sniff that out. Like if you're genuinely an asshole, but you're trying to be nice and you're trying to fake it, dude, people know that
Mhm.
right away.
Yeah.
Um, because
Yeah.
again, it all comes back to your actions, right? Your words say this, but your actions do that. That's really where the rubber meets the road.
I agree. Authenticity all the way across the board. And there is something to, everyone knowing that you're a certain type. If you're just a jerk, I mean, as long as you're a fair and impartial jerk, and
Yeah,
people kind of expect that from you,
own it.
is it the best? Probably not. But at the end of the day, if you're being who you are, people are still going to trust you more because, yeah, Chris is a total freaking a-hole. But, you know, at the end of the day, when we need something, he shows up. He might be a little bit growly when he shows up, but he shows up. So, I mean, that there is something to that. But let's go to the opposite side of that, right? So there are the people who aren't authentic. There are the people who, I mean, this is all the jerks and all of the non-trustworthy people out there. But what about those people who are honestly just trying to do their very best, but they feel like they have to be everybody's friends and they're people pleasing?
Right.
That is so common. It is so common. And actually, for a while there, so I started off in leadership as that stoic, do as I say, this is how it goes, all that other stuff. And then I slowly learned that that didn't work. And then I started becoming in higher positions. And so I tried to be a little bit more smiley and be, I mean, kind is good, but, you know, I was really just always worried about what other people thought. And, you know, so I would change the way I did things to make sure that everybody was happy. And, you know, I didn't want to make anybody mad and you know, that doesn't work either. If you're always just trying to make everybody happy all the time, that will also show. You know,
Yeah.
if you have a problem with the way the operation is going, you got to say it. Because if you sit back, that's going to be a problem that festers into something unhealthy. And it's not just going to be unhealthy for you, it's also going to affect the entire team. I mean, if something's not going right, it's not right. You can't sit back and just let it happen. You got to do something about it. That's part of leadership, is taking the hard right and not the easy left, not sitting back and just watching everything go on. I mean, so people pleasing is also a very, very dangerous thing. And I just be curious, Chris, what your take is on that.
Yeah. It is very dangerous. And you know, what's the old saying? Like you can't make all the people happy all the time, something along those lines. But it's absolutely true. Like, you know what? Yes, as a leader, you need to be firm but fair. Not everything that your team is doing. I mean, look, you could have an initiative that's, let's see. Let's say that you're trying to get into a new market in your business, and you realize that in order to get into your new market, you need to go after these certain types of companies, and you've got to approach it in a certain way. Maybe you've got a salesperson who's resistant. Oh, I don't like the business that those companies are in, whatever. Well, okay. So for the greater good of the organization, right, you as the leader need to say to that person, I understand where you're coming from, but this is our job. And that's what we need to do in order to grow this organization so that we can all be successful. And if you're that opposed to it, then we need to figure something else out. I'm not saying that right there, then and there, you call out that like, hey, look, this is the way, and the train's leaving with or without you. But you can kind of allude to that. You don't want to, you know, come right in off the top ropes with like it or leave it. This is what we're doing. This is part of where leadership comes in, of having that communication,
Yeah,
and being able to, you know, meet and have some common ground. But at the end of the day, if that is the future of your organization and you've got one person who's not happy about it, maybe that person doesn't need to be on your team anymore.
yeah.
So you cannot sacrifice the happiness of one person for the entire team and the entire organization. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to be happy all the time. This isn't a circus. I mean, some places are a circus. This isn't a comedy show, right?
Any business in the circus. Not a good analogy there, Chris.
Right.
But go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
But no, you cannot make everyone happy all the time. And the sooner you get that into your head as a leader, the better off you'll be. And you can't feel bad about it either.
No.
I remember as a young leader feeling bad that, like, man, this person really doesn't like what we're doing, but we're all moving in this direction. I know that's what's right. Everyone else knows what's right. And then you try to overcompensate with that one person. All right, you're not happy here, but how can I make you happy in some other way? And then it starts to complicate things and it's getting confusing. Like, you know what? I say this with my kids too. You know, I have 3 boys, and they don't like doing work around the house. They don't like cleaning up the yard, you know, after our 3 dogs. But guess what? That's your job and it needs to be done. So, and I'm not going to extra compensate you for it just because you don't like it.
Right.
You know, obviously I can't fire my kids and say, like, well, you don't like what we do in this house, you can leave. But there are other ways that you can motivate and still understand that, like, hey, you may not be happy, but you know, it is what it is.
Right. That's true. Yeah. I mean, you got to take a hard line, and there are times where you do, and so, but not saying anything or doing or maybe changing your entire approach just because you have a couple of unhappy people. There are times where you can help people get better at whatever it is that they're struggling with, which is probably why they're saying they don't like it in the first place. But at the end of the day, there are just certain things, you're right, that just have to be done, especially at work when you're getting paid to do that job. The analogy with your kids, now that's a little bit difficult because at the end of the day, they're still going to be your kids. You're still going to love them.
Right.
I mean,
But, you know,
you can't throw them on the street.
exactly. But man, now I've lost my train of thought. When it comes to, people, like if you have an individual on your team that's not happy about something, or maybe you've got 2 people on your team, you really do have to address that. Like you said, JJ, because that attitude can start to permeate. Like as soon as one of your people that's totally happy, they're fine. They hit one single roadblock, one little speed bump, and now you've got unhappy Harry right away. He's swooping in like a vampire. He's like, oh, you know what, dude? That's why. You know, the reason this happened is because of, 1, 2, and 3, and now he's sucking him into his cult, and now it's going to spread. So if you have unhappy people, you need to address that and not let it spread throughout your organization. But that's just part of leadership. It really doesn't have anything to do with being authentic. It just has to do with not everyone's going to be happy all the time, and you've got to live with that. That's just, it is what it is.
By the way, so we normally have Joe Snuffy, but I think Unhappy Harry just made my board too. That's going to be a new one for me. I like Unhappy Harry.
There you go.
But no, people pleasing, bottom line, not okay. Help people adapt. I mean, obviously there are some times in leadership where people just are so resistant where you can help them and help them and help them, and then they got to go or go to a different department or whatever the case may be. So people pleasing is it's not good because it doesn't help anybody develop, and it doesn't help your business or your team move forward and do things better and better all the time. But another point I wanted to bring up, and it's a trap. It really, really is. So I just brought up taking the hard right, not the easy left. And what kind of goes along with that is hiding.
Yeah.
Sometimes when people get overwhelmed, this isn't even people pleasing. This is just, it's almost like fear. And instead of asking for help or doing something about it, and it doesn't have anything to do with that person, getting mad or maybe I mean, it could be a whole bunch of things. It could be they're afraid of the mission failing. It could be, well, what happens if I do this? What happens if I do that? Sometimes people just don't do anything at all. And hiding is just letting things happen and seeing how they play out. And sometimes if you do that strategically, that's okay when it's discussed and it's measured. But when you just sit back and don't do anything about a difficult situation, that's not leadership.
No.
And if you know that that's a trap that you fall into, you need to leverage a friend, buddy, because at the end of the day, that's it's common. It's not
Mhm.
it's not doesn't make anybody bad, and it doesn't make you a bad leader if that happens to you. It just means that there's you have a weakness there, and that's a developmental point. And I'm going to go ahead and say that I can't say it with 100% certainty, but I know for a fact that I struggled with that at one point. I'm almost positive you, Chris, probably struggled with that at
Yeah.
some point. There's no such thing as a perfect person out there.
No.
And hiding from situations, and this applies to everything, personal life, work. If you decide to start a business, you better not hide,
Mm-mm.
because you're only hiding from yourself. But and a lot of people do that, by the way. Sometimes they can't even admit to self what their truths, to what their honest truths are, and that's what gets them in trouble in almost every area of their lives. But hiding is probably, I mean, people pleasing, masking problems, whatever the case. There are a whole bunch of things that can make you not authentic, but hiding is the absolute worst, because not only are you not admitting that there's a problem, you're not telling anybody else that there's a problem, you're not addressing the fact that there could be a problem, you're just completely avoiding it altogether.
Yeah. If you find yourself avoiding it, right, that's part of the fight, flight, or fear or freeze
Mm-hmm.
kind of scenario, right? When you feel yourself freezing up, the first thing you have to do is ask why. You've got to internally ask yourself, like, man, why am I avoiding this? Why am I hiding from this? And you're right. There are strategic times where it's not hiding. It's like, I know for me, there are times that I will close my office door because I just need to think about something. Hey, there's a challenge that I'm working on right now. And normally my door is open and people can come and like, hey man, you got a minute? I need to run something by you. That's fine. But I need uninterrupted time right now to deal with a challenge that is important. So I'm going to close my door and I'm going to figure it out. Like, that is a strategic choice because I've identified this is a challenge and it needs to be addressed.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just like ball up and you're like, oh man, things are getting hard, but I don't know what's getting hard. I don't know the path forward. Like, that's when you need to just stop and assess and say, all right, let me step back for a second. Let me detach. And now let's figure out a plan forward. You can't just stop and the world stops with you. So that freezing up, it definitely happens early in your leadership career. And that's what you have to learn from. You have to learn to identify those triggers or those points where you do just clam up. All right, cool. What's making me do that? How do I assess it? How do I move forward? But that's a learned skill.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yep. And so we are towards the end here. I will say I wrote down a couple of things in my little type notes up here. And so there are certain terms that I kind of do associate with being authentic. And I would say that when you understand who you are and you understand your values and you stick to that, that's being authentic.
Yeah.
When you're consistent, that shows authenticity. When you're transparent and vulnerable, that allows other people to be transparent and vulnerable, but it also shows that you're just being who you are. And the other part is showing integrity, and the most important one is always leading by example. If you want things to be done a certain way, you got to model it. But I mean, do you have any closing comments to go along with that, Chris?
Yeah, sometimes your growth as a leader can be uncomfortable, and that's okay. Embrace the discomfort if it's helping you to grow, but don't try to force yourself to be someone else, because that's where you're going to be found out. That's where your authenticity is going to be lacking. So growth is one thing, pursue it, work through the discomfort. I totally get that. Do not try to create a version of you that mirrors someone else, because at the end of the day, that's really not you, and your actions speak louder than words. Your true self will come out in your actions, not what's coming across your lips. So just be smart about the changes that you want to make about yourself and how they're going to benefit you as an individual, your team, your organization, your family, whatever. But you can't be other people, and you'll be found out for that.
Yep. Adopt the best practices that you see growing up. If you have good leaders, adopt the good things that they do. But everyone has bad qualities, even yourself.
Yeah.
So always try to get better, but don't ever try to be who you're not. That just never never ever works.
No.
Before we are done, I have to do it just like always, and I haven't been live in a while, so I'm gonna say this book. I've gotten a lot of great feedback, and I finally have a couple reviews up on Amazon about it.
Nice.
Speak Up, Show Up, Lead. This is my story, and it's my story, and there's ups and downs, but there are a lot of lessons learned. If you feel like you are an underdog in life right now, and you need to pick me up, the one review that I had on there, and she booked a call with me just so she could talk with me about it. She said that she doesn't even read, and she's been forcing herself to do it 15 minutes a day, and 15 pages a day. And she ran out on one of her books, and she bought mine, and she picked it up, and she sat down for 2.5 hours and read the whole thing because she couldn't put it down. And so, you never know what's going to get you to that next level. She said it helped her because she was at kind of a low point with certain things in her life. And this book is supposed to motivate you to pick yourself up by your bootstraps and stop woe is meing and do what you got to do. So that's been my whole entire life, by the way. Woe is me doesn't work, but go out there and buy Speak Up, Show Up, Lead. It's on Amazon. I don't think you'll regret it. I've gotten some good feedback.
So buy the book.
Buy the doggone book. Well, thank you for another episode, Chris, and thank you for the people who have been on and off of this, watching this live today and in the future. If you enjoy this content, please like, subscribe, share. Most importantly, comment. We want to hear what you like, what you don't. We want to get ideas for future episodes, and we really just always appreciate you guys. And we are planning on coming back in a couple of weeks, so hopefully you tune in. It's every other Saturday, and for us, that next one is going to be on the 30th. So please tune in on the 30th at 7 Central Time, and we will see you all then.
Sounds good. Have an awesome day.